Today I am going to show you how to sharpen a knife on Waterstones. I've got a customer's Miyabi. It's in really good condition. It's just going to be a straightforward sharpening. For beginners, I would recommend starting on a coarse stone. I'll be starting on a Atoma 400 diamond plate today. You could start on a Waterstone, same grit, 400, 300 in that range. What a coarse grit stone is going to do is allow you to cut the bevels and get to an apex, creating a burr quicker with less strokes, which will help you to maintain your angle easier. We're then going to move from this to a Naniwa 1000. A 1000 grit is probably good for most knives. From there we're going to, because this is a harder steel and it can take a finer edge, we're going to move to a 5000 to polish the edge, really refine the scratch pattern, and then we'll move to a leather strop to remove whatever is left of the burr, and then we'll do a quick paper cut test. Okay, so to get started, you're going to want to sharpen a knife like this somewhere around about 15 degrees. If you've got a Western style knife, you might want to be a little bit higher up. You can match the factory angle if you like. Just color the bevel in with a permanent marker. Take a stroke or two. Look and see that you've removed all of the marker from that bevel. Then you'll know that is the angle. Use your finger as a guide, so you'll have your typically thumb on the heel, finger on the spine. You can use your finger position, like know where your finger is on the knife blade, lower, higher. You can mark that with a marker if you like, so you go straight back to the same place, but you will get a little indent there and you'll feel when it's right. And by doing that, every time you change hands or change stones or whatever the case is, you will go back to exactly the same angle. This just touches the stone. You don't want to have too much pressure on there, you will take skin off. You want your knife to be angled with the stone to some extent. You don't want to be parallel, but you don't want to be 90 degrees either. You want it to be across the stone. This puts more of the blade surface into contact with the stone at any given time, allowing you to get a smoother transition between the sections so that you don't hollow areas out. It also helps prevent rocking the blade like this and digging the edge into the corner of the stone, which will ruin any of the work you've put in. I guess this is the time where we start. So I'm going to take my knife, that's the angle I'm going to go, and I'm going to start. I'm going to keep this wrist locked now. I'm going to be using my shoulders and my elbow to move while the knife stays at the same angle. I'm going to be using this hand to put pressure on the blade as close to the edge as possible. If you push up higher up, you're going to push the blade down every time and you're not going to get to the apex. You're going to have a round bevel instead of a flat bevel. So finger on the stone, that's my angle, and we're going to start. This should be really quick on a diamond stone. The knife isn't in bad condition. At this point I'm raising my elbow to get the tip down onto the stone. Just move this hand backwards and forwards along the blade. You will be taking steel off where your fingers are. Check what you've done. Make sure you're getting to the point. Make sure you're not going too far and rounding the point up. You want this to remain pointy, and make sure you're getting the heel. The heel is a somewhat difficult area to get. Okay, back to the same angle. I need to do a bit of work on the heel here. you get the tip a little bit better. You can do the tip on the parts of the stone that you don't normally use for the rest of the work. And now I can see I've got to the heel, I've got to the tip. At this point you start feeling for a burr. A burr is where the steel has been, or the bevel's been ground down to the apex and the steel has folded over. If you think about sawing through a piece of wood, you've got the same effect. As you cut through, the bottom of the wood has all the splinters hanging out. This is essentially the same thing. So with this diamond stone and this thin knife, we have already got a burr down the entire length of the knife. Now I'm going to swap hands. I'm going to do the same thing. Finger on the stone. This hand is now doing the pushing. This wrist is locked and we're going to start. Move that finger along. Move it along. Move it along. So you're doing the blade in sections. Little bit, little bit, little bit. You've got a lot of control. Lifting the elbow now. Take it easy here. Make sure you get that tip. Check your work. You can see I still have to do a little bit here, a tiny bit up at the tip. So, same place on the knife. Got my angle, a little bit on the heel, blend it in, come up to the tip. Careful to get all the way to the tip and not round it up. And now we're going to just blend everything together, a couple of line passes here. I have a burr all the way down the edge. I can feel it. If you can't feel it, you do want to try and create the smallest burr possible, so it might be difficult to feel while you're learning. Just drag it backwards on your nail. The burr will be created on the opposite side to the side that you've been working. So we work this side, the burr is on that side. Vice versa, you work this side, the burr is on this side. At this point also just check. Bevels are kind of equal on both sides. I can see this one's got more of a bevel on the side I've just worked, so I'm going to just put a little bit more work on this side to get them the same. Shouldn't be much. Blend everything in. And that's looking much better. Okay, so now we've got a burr. We're going to reduce the burr quickly. This is done by doing very light passes. So I've got my angle. I'm going to start at the tip and I'm going to just do a light pass backwards and forwards. And then burr is flipped. I'm going to do the same thing now. Tip to heel, tip to heel, tip to heel. You can feel it smaller. You can do this heel to tip as well. Heel to tip. Heel to tip. Light pressure. And again. And now I'm going to start doing less strokes. You can feel little bits of the burr still, but it's largely gone. You don't have to remove the entire burr, but you do want most of it gone. It's just going to help the next stone will go a lot quicker if you've taken most of that burr off. There's still burr there now, it is vastly reduced. This knife will actually cut now. this point the knife should cut. It won't be a clean cut, but it will cut. Doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Okay, I'm going to move straight on to 1000 grit. If you've got a stone that requires soaking, you could have soaked it already. This stone doesn't need soaking, it's a splash and go. That means it just needs water on the surface. A useful tool to have is a Naniwa stone. You do a little bit of flattening and bringing up clean particulate to the surface. You take off the dirt and the worn down grit. I've already done that when I finished with the last knife. So now, same thing. All you want to do this time though is refine the scratch pattern. This should be really, really quick. So same position, got your angle, lock your wrist, and away we go. Moving your fingers down, you can walk your fingers down, and to the tip. Now I'm just blending everything in so that I don't have sections of the knife anymore. I've got a continuous one face of a bevel. And now you can feel you've created a new burr. It's much smaller than the last one, but it is there. Same thing, get my angle, place my fingers on the knife blade, and oh, here we go. Section by section. Into the tip. Blending it together. And I have a burr all the way to the tip. So now the most important thing on doing a knife, if you're going to finish on 1000, which is good for most knives, I'm going to take this one a step further, but the burr removal is critical in edge longevity and true sharpness. So I'm just going to, again, a couple of light passes. Using hardly any force on this at the moment. A couple of sweeping strokes through. To the side. Again, just use your finger, that's your guide. Hardly any pressure on this at this point. Take care not to dig the knife into the corner of the stone. Get that tip. And a couple of blending strokes. If you're new at this, start slow. Just push, pick it up, push, or bring it back. Just go nice and slow. There's no rush. Okay, this burr is already very, very small. I'm just going to do a couple of passes again. To the side. Couple of alternating strokes. This is a really beautiful knife. It's what they call a diamond Damascus. And again, finished with this grit. Should cut a lot smoother than the last stone because the burr is a lot finer, or whatever's left of it. Now we're moving on to 5000. This will be my finishing stone today. Again, this is a much harder steel than your typical German knife. I think this is a Rockwell 61. Most German steels are in the 54 to 58 range. So a slightly coarser grit on the 1000 will give it a slightly more toothy edge, and it will last a lot longer. Same thing. We're just polishing it now. We are not sharpening anymore. So you just want to refine that scratch pattern. So here we go, same thing. A couple of strokes. Put fair pressure on here, not too much. Moving along in sections. Get to the tip. You can see you on the tip. And a couple of strokes to blend it. Other side, got your angle. Moving in sections, moderate pressure. Make sure you get to the tip. Blend it in. The stone is beautiful, smooth. Okay, now we're going to move to the other side of the knife again. Start doing the burr reduction. Again, this is the most critical part, or two critical things in knife sharpening. You have to make an apex, which means you have to have a burr, and you have to remove the burr. That is essential. So, light strokes, very light pressure, to the side. And now we go a few less strokes every time. Light pressure, light pressure. You don't want to do that. If you run your knife off the edge of the stone, you risk rounding over whichever part touches. Okay, we're going to go less strokes, lighter pressure. At this point, we'll start hearing the burr coming off on the stone. You'll start hearing little ticking sounds. There they start, right there. Tick, 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 tick. That's smooth, smooth. Okay, now you just go alternating. I think that burr is mostly off at this point. If you were finishing on 1000 grit, you would be doing this on the 1000 grit stone. If you were finishing on a 600 grit, you would be doing this on the 600 grit stone. You can still hear little ticking sounds here. Okay, See, I've got a nice shiny bevel. You can feel it's sharp. At this point it should cut nicely. The tip should fall through. And the knife should easily slice the page. So one final step, leather strop. If you don't have a proper strop, you can put your belt down on the edge of a counter and a couple of passes away from the edge. You don't want too much pressure on here. You want to match the angle you sharpened at. One common mistake here is to roll the knife up. Don't do that, you'll destroy your edge. Look at the leather and listen to it. If there's still burr anywhere, you'll see marks in the leather. Then you know you've got to either continue on the leather or go back to the fine stone until all of the burr is removed. And this knife is now as sharp as it's going to be. So to do a final test here, it should fall through the paper. Whew. We should be able to cut into the paper easily from the side. And that's it. That is how to sharpen a knife on whetstones. There are a couple of tricks and tips for how to set up your stuff so that you can get the best use out of it with the least effort. I've got a video on that. You can check it out. It's called Tips and Tricks for Success with Waterstones. Anyway, this is how to sharpen a knife on waterstones. This is a Miyabi. It is a beautiful Damascus knife with a very, very sharp edge.